Good morning again, folks. It's Wednesday. Remember that. We're going to have church again tonight. It's wonderful to be back to Bible study, so come and join us tonight at 6:30. But I wanted to share some things with you today about perspective. I've been reading, and one of the saddest verses, I think, in the scriptures is found in Judges chapter 21, the last verse of the book of Judges. It says this, "And in those days there was no king in Israel, and every man did that which was right in his own eyes." How Israel had dropped from the first part of the book of Judges to being in favor with God and everything that was done, and how God just worked in their lives, and it said not one good promise had failed. By the time we get to the end of the book of Judges, people had turned their backs on God and were living their own life. Perspective. It's shown to us in the book of Numbers. Remember, Moses sent men out to spy out the land. He sent out 12 men, one from each tribe, to spy out the land, the promised land, to see how good it was and to see what could happen. And man's perspective was this: when they went into that land, 10 of the 12 came back and they said this, "And there we saw giants, the sons of Anak, which came of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers." We felt like we were grasshoppers against these giants. Now there were two men who had a different perspective. One of them was Caleb, and listen to what he said in just a few verses before that. In verse 30, it says, "And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, 'Let us go up at once and possess the land, for we are well able to overcome it.'" One group of men had man's perspective. Caleb and Joshua had God's perspective. And they were well willing, and they knew God was well able to take care of them. We see it again in another set of scriptures in the book of 2 Kings. In 2 Kings chapter 2 Kings chapter 6, Elisha is working for the king of Israel. The Syrians have come, and every time they've set up camp, Elisha has told the king of Israel exactly where they were going to be and to watch out and don't go there. And the king of Syria asked and said, "Who's against us? There's a spy in our group." And they said, "No, it's the prophet Elisha. He's telling Israel, the king of Israel, everything that you said, even in your own bedroom." So the king said, "Well, find him, search him out, and let's capture him." And so the great host came, and they compassed the city that Elisha was in. In verse 15 of chapter 6 it says, "And the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, and behold, a host had encamped about them. And he said, 'Alas, my master, what shall we do?'" That's man's perspective. The enemy's all around. We can't get out. We're grasshoppers. But listen to Elisha. "And Elisha prayed and said, 'Lord, I pray, open his eyes, that he might see.' And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man. And he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha." Perspective. If God's in control, God's going to take care of you. And Elisha asked God to show the young man that the army that was with them was greater than the army that was with the Syrians. And that leads me to the book of Matthew. In the book of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 26. It says this, with man it might be impossible, but with God nothing shall be impossible. And listen, how he gave us a way to tap into the sources of God. The impossibility in resources of God is found in the chapter just before that, chapter 18. Verse 19 says this, Jesus said, and again I say unto you, that if two of you shall agree on earth as asking, touching anything they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together, there am I in their midst. Just think of it. The perspective that we have, we can look at it from man's perspective, and it can be devastating, and it can be scary, and it can rob us of our joy. But when God opens your eyes and you see it from his perspective, and you know what God is doing for us, we can gather together and we can pray and we can believe, for in the midst of even two or three, there's the Lord, and we can see things from God's perspective. So let's look at it from the heavenlies. Let's look at our situations from the heavenlies. Let's look at it how God would look at it with us. And let's have faith to believe that the power and the strength of God is greater than the power and the strength of the devil, greater than the power and the strength of man. And we're not grasshoppers in anybody's sight. We're children of the living God. God bless you, folks. We'll talk to you again next time.